Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Sabrina, and it's our pleasure to have you with us today for a new World Languages webinar in collaboration with Central States. We are happy to have with us Josh LeGrave, Coordinator of Digital Media and Marketing, who will say a few words. Josh, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our fourth in a series around our 2025 conference theme of Global Languages, Global Goals. My name is Josh LeGrave, and I'm the coordinator of digital media and marketing for the Central States Conference. And we are so very excited for tonight's webinar that ties so directly to our theme. Thinking ahead, we will be in Chicago in March of 2026, and we would love to see you all there. Proposals are currently open. And if you go to centralstatesconference.org, you will find information about the 2026 conference, which theme is Languages Are Fundamentals. And feel free to submit a proposal, as well as check out our grants, scholarships, and we even have a special project grant with CLET that we would be more than happy to have many applications for. So centralstatesconference.org for more information. And again, thank you so much for spending your time tonight with us, and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Josh. We hope to continue doing more collaborations with Central States, and for everyone, we'll put the link for the conference in a couple minutes as well. And now, as you can see on the screen, our presenter for the night is Diego Ojeda, who is a passionate Spanish speaker, teacher, and a nationally recognized world language presenter known for his innovative and impactful teaching style. He is the co-founder of two influential professional learning networks, the International LangChat and the popular Charla L1 for Spanish educators. Diego is the editor of the Reporteros Readers, a series of comprehensible Spanish language readers that support proficiency development, and also serves as the US reviewer for our 24 Horas en Spanish Reader series. In addition, he is the coordinator of the KWL Back to School Summer Conference, a professional learning event for language educators that will be open for registration soon. We'll keep you posted. And he brings years of classroom experience and professional insight to every project, making him a trusted voice in Spanish language education. Thank you very much, Diego. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Thank you so much, Josh. And welcome everyone to this 1 hour webinar. And I promise I'm gonna try to keep it 1 hour. Okay, it's actually 50 minutes, so I think we're gonna go the hour. So I currently, and I've been teaching for 34 years, 26 of them in the United States. And I have been teaching, middle school, high school, college level, technical college level. And I'm saying this because when you have the experience and the opportunity to work in different areas, you learn, about different types of students, different contexts. And I believe that as language teachers, that's so very important because it's not just what we share as far as contents in the classroom, but also what type of connection we make with our students. And that changes from one context to the other context. Uh, Many people says, you know what, in the end, they are all kids. In the end, they are all teenagers. But in reality, each group is different. Even if you're working with 4 groups at the same school, each group is different. In reality, each student is different within the same group. And they have different experiences and they see life in a different light. So the more we learn about that human aspect of the people we work with, the better we can connect language learning and language teaching with a topic like the topic that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how to connect language learning to real world issues through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a topic that I have to confess that I wasn't very familiar with. Um, and I started like getting more educated on the topic since probably a year ago. And I started seeing the application in the classroom and how well this connects with our daily work with our students. So I will be sharing different things today. This is the agenda of the webinar. First of all, we're gonna talk about SDGs, which means Sustainable Development Goals. And we're gonna explain what are they, what is that, what does it mean? Then we're gonna take each one of them and we're gonna reframe them in order to make it feel more personal and urgent for teens. Because one thing is the goal that United Nations and this group of people has put together, but it might look different to teenagers just because they have, as I said before, different experiences in life and maybe not many experiences at the same time. Then we're going to be connecting language learning into real world issues. So how can we bring real world issues, which is the sustainable goals, in language learning? Then we're going to connect those uh, sustainable development goals with language learning through the ACFULT proficiency levels. So how do they look in the novice, in the mid, intermediate, or advanced levels? Then we're going to talk about 4 theories of language and how this applies to those theories as well. And then we're going to close with a list of resources that you can use in language class that are related to the Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations. So this is the agenda, so let's get started. Okay, so what it is, what are we going to be talking about? So the Sustainable Development Goals are a set of 17 goals that were adopted by the United Nations as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, meaning this is a group of people who are very concerned about the future of the world. They get together from many nations around the world. They talk about the challenges. They want to see a better world for everyone. So they sit down and they talk to each other and ask, okay, what are the main concerns? How do we want to see the world in 2030? How can we change this? So they come up with these 17 goals. I don't know, I was kind of surprised with the number, you know. You will say, okay, 10, 15, 20, but 17, that's very interesting. Did they run out of steam? No, it's just 17, okay? So let's go with that. Important thing is that these are goals that are a call to action to end things like poverty, protect the planet, and ensure peace and prosperity for all by 2030. I want to be honest with you. I think that one of the most important things for us as language teachers, people who talks about culture, communities, people around the world, is to be honest with our students and to be honest with ourselves. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to share with you the challenges that these goals face because it sounds beautiful, but is it achievable or not? Okay, so here we go. So these are the goals, so please bear with me while I introduce each one of them. The first one is no poverty. You can read the next slide. Second one, zero hunger. Okay. The third one, good health and well-being. Okay. Fourth, quality education. Fifth, gender equality. Just in these 5 goals, we have serious world challenges here, right? But these are the first 5. Then we go with clean water and sanitation. Okay. Then we go with number 7, which brings affordable and clean energy. Okay. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Remember, we're talking about many countries around the world who came up with this. 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. 10, reduce inequalities. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. We have 5 more, and 13 is climate action. Okay. 14, life below water. Okay, the oceans, the seas. 15, life on land. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. 17, partnerships for the goals, meaning getting together and actually trying to achieve these goals. When we look at these 17 goals, we recognize some topics here that might be part of our curriculum, right? When we talk about life on land, when we talk about the oceans, the sea, life below water, and probably a few more. But we also recognize things that we never touch in our curriculum. I don't know how much, maybe some of us do. I don't know in what level, but you usually don't see anything related to peace, justice, strong institutions. So I believe that these goals also help us opening our eyes to what sort of things are important in our instruction. We are helping our students becoming citizens, citizens of their own communities, but hopefully also citizens of the world. So if that's what we want, and that's what how we want to see them in the future, we need to take action and we need to bring things that matter. Yes, we're not going to fix the world, but at least mentioning some of these things in our classes make a difference, because slowly but surely we start helping our students growing their critical thinking. Okay, so these are the goals. Now, how do our students might see these sustainable development goals? See? And how can we help them reframing their so they make sense to them? Let's see. For example, the first one, no poverty. Kids, I don't see much poverty around me unless I go downtown or see something on TikTok. I feel bad, but it seems far away from my everyday life. Okay, this is actually something that was said in one of my classrooms. See? Because, yeah, the kids know that there's a lot of poverty downtown Louisville. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. People living under the bridges and low income housing. And it's kind of like a different world, right? So we want to bring and share with them these goals, and we hope that the students will react to them the same way that we react, with that urgency, with that concern. But maybe to them it doesn't seem the same way. So it is important that we reframe this for them. So we need to bring each one of these goals and put it on their own experience. So, okay, no poverty. Okay, so think about classmates who quietly rely on free lunch programs. Poverty is closer than you think. And this is not just in public schools, this also happens in private schools. Many kids are on scholarships. Many kids struggle in private high level schools. Their families struggle. So, this is something that they should be caring about. The second one, zero hunger. They might think People go hungry in other countries, right? Here, if you're hungry, you can get food from school programs or food banks. Okay? They have this view that for every problem, there's always a solution, that the country is giving you a solution so you're safe. But we need to share with them that it's important, to put themselves in someone else's shoes. So imagine being hungry during a school day and trying to concentrate. This happens also in the United States. Um, just, spending one day drinking soda, for example, just because that's what they can afford. So, how does it feel? We need to bring these goals to the students' reality. Good health and well being. Mental health is a huge issue. Everyone talks about anxiety, depression, and stress. Physical health is important too, but mental health hits closer to home. So the kids hear a lot about mental health. Okay. So remember, let's help them understand that we need to normalize mental health. That not because someone is struggling, that means that they have issues. We need to normalize that because in the end, everyone has some kind of issue with their mental health. And this is part of, their care that they um, need to have in their life. Quality education. I have access to education, but not all schools are equal. Some schools are way better than others depending on where you live. So it's important that they realize that they can be part of the change, that they can change systems with their voice. They really don't understand how important their voice is. And that is not their fault. This is probably the system's fault. Probably the system has been manipulated in a way to make them believe that the voice doesn't matter. Today, we had student elections at my school, and I was talking to a couple of candidates, and I was asking them, okay, what changes are you going to bring to school? Why you want to be a candidate? Why you want to be a student leader? Oh, well, we want a longer lunch. Oh, well, we need candy in whatever place at school. I'm like, seriously? Is that how you're gonna be using your voice for that? How about thinking about real issues that impact maybe not you, but maybe most of the students? How about thinking about the school as a community? How about thinking about your community in town, in Louisville? Those are things that you should be considering. But the system has made them believe that their voice doesn't count, so they come up with these ideas that sometimes do not really make a difference. Okay? So we can keep looking at different goals and how they look at these goals. Gender equality. How can we reframe this for them? So remind them that gender equality is about pursuing dreams, is about being free from bias. So it is important that we respect, we understand, and we do something for others' um, you know, capacity to pursue their dreams. And this can be done also through respect. Clean water and sanitation. They don't think about this because they just turn on the tap and they have water that they can drink. This is probably one of the few countries in the world where you can do that. I won't do that in Bogota. I try. I went to Colombia last year and I tried to do that because I was thirsty and it just tasted really funny. Okay. So, how can we frame this for them? Just making them understand that water is the next dollar, that water is going to be the treasure in the future, that countries that have access to water are going to be leading in many senses because water tends to disappear. So it is important that they understand that we need to take care of these things right away. Okay? All right. Affordable clean energy. Well, they hear about solar panels, they hear about electric cars, but that's kind of expensive. It's kind of cool. And adults argue a lot about it. Oh, yeah, are they good? Are they bad? Are they good for the environment? Not this and that. The point is that we talk about solar panels and we talk about electric cars just because we need a planet that is sustainable, a planet where we can have a future, a planet where their kids can thrive. Decent work and economic growth. I worry about getting a good job after college. Also, a lot of teens have part time jobs and see how hard it is to make good money. So, decent work is related to fairness. So, it doesn't matter what work you have. Are you paid in a fair way for what you are doing? Uh, Unfortunately, the toughest jobs are the ones who pay less. And somehow, for the students, this just makes sense. Oh, you didn't go to school? What? You didn't become a professional? Well, maybe you should earn less money. And that should not be the story. Um, and there's an example, when I talk to kids in Colombia and they start asking me about professions here in the United States and about how much certain people will make, um, I share with them, a gentleman who works cleaning, collecting garbage every day on a truck can probably have the same salary here than a teacher. And that's real. See, this will never happen in a country like Colombia. But at the same time, there are some other jobs that pay way much more than the teacher's salary. And then you start seeing discrepancies. So it's important for us to talk about those differences in the world of work. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So they think immediately about technology. Okay. So how can we reframe this? Well, okay, technology is cool, but technology is not just for fun. They think about iPhones, they think about the games, the video games, the console, PlayStation. They relate technology to that kind of stuff. But we need to help them understand that technology and innovation also can help make their life better. And if we talk about these things when these kids graduate and they have that interest, how can I make my life better through technology? We have planted a seed. Obviously, it can be worse, but it's important that we talk about the importance of using technology to make life better. Reduce inequalities. So we talk about racism, sexism, LGBTQ plus rights. People post about it all the time, but sometimes it feels performative or fake. This is what they have in their mind. So it's important that make them realize that change need more than posts. Um, this is our fault as adults too. We are in a generation where we don't read the whole article. We just read the headline on Facebook, on Instagram, and that's it. We don't get, to the real story. Of course, the kids are going to be doing that. And of course, they think that they can change the world just through posts, and there's not a lot of content there. So it's important that they take real action. We're going with 11, sustainable cities and communities. Okay. So they see their places, they see their cities, they see their communities, they see that there's a lack of things on their communities. They want different things. And this is where we get into, where is your voice? How can you help your community getting those things that you would like to see for your community. How can we do this? Okay, you like social media? Let's do it, but not just through a post. Let's just get into a discussion, a panel. Let's do a webinar. Let's open, the conversation with different people in town. We're just gonna be talking about what we want for our city. That's not that hard, but it's important that they feel those connections. Responsible consumption and production. So we talk about recycling. We talk about how to reuse things. Um, but it's important that they understand that every little step that they take, every small choice that they take every day helps being responsible for consumption and production. Okay, let's keep moving so we can talk a little bit about language later. Climate action. So for the students, it doesn't feel as urgent maybe as for the adults. And that makes sense because they're very young. They have not seen the changes we have seen. I am very old and I'm going to be older in 2 weeks. And I have seen the changes. I have seen how the seasons look different now. I see that there's more severe weather than in the past. They have not yet. Okay. But it is important for them to see how the world has changed. We can do that through many ways, especially technology can help us visualize how landscapes have changed over the years. Life below water. So I see sad turtle videos with plastic straws. Okay, these are the videos that we constantly see on social media. And there's a guy who takes scissors or takes this or that and frees the turtle. So we feel so good about that. Okay. But are we being responsible when we go to the beach and we don't throw garbage? Do we remember those videos that we were watching and the turtles and the different animals struggling because all this contamination or garbage on the sea? So we need to bring these topics to our classes. We need to talk about those things so they realize what is going on. Life on land, deforestation, endangered species. So the same thing as the previous topic, okay? So helping them understand that it's important to protect the forest and that we can help, even if we don't have a forest close to us, we can help protecting those forests, okay? With our daily behaviors. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. For the students, this aspect is more like an adult thing. So they consider this a political kind of drama. And, they hear the different angles, the different groups, different opinions, and they just decide not to get into that. But we cannot be the teachers who say something like, you know what, I really don't like to bring politics into my classroom, into my language instruction classroom, because I teach language, not politics. That is a huge mistake because language is life. And in life, so many things happen, and we have to connect with everything that happens around us. And one of those things is this topics of peace, justice, and strong institutions. So that way we know how institutions should be working. And when we become adults, then we can be part of the solution. All right. All right, my friends. So the last one, partnership for the goals. So the idea with this goal is that we're going to work together. We're going to create a partnership. We're going to be working together on these changes, on these goals. Make them realize that they know how to do this. They know how to work together. They belong to clubs. They have friendships. So they can apply that same skill to better the world. Okay? Now, reframing each goal to make it feel more personal and urgent for teens, it's quite important. All right. So, my friends, in other words, these goals are not just for governments, they involve how we live, what we consume, how we treat others, and how we take care of the planet. That is why they are so important in education. This is the list of goals again. Please take a quick look at these 17 goals. Think for a moment, and which one do you feel the most connected to personally? Which one matters most to you today? Please write on the chat. Which one do you feel most connected with? If you want to explain why, that's great. I am reading very interesting comments that I will go over them. Okay, they say 13, 16 and 5, 16 again, peace, justice, and strong institutions, 13, 5, 4, 16 again, 4 has come, quality education, 16, 15, life and land, okay. Yes, they are interconnected, of course. They are interconnected, but each one of them has their own set of issues, right? Okay. Oh, someone says 1 and 2, no poverty, zero hunger. Okay. Wow. It's so cool to see, these answers here that you're actually participating because I use the Reporteros textbook. I use Reporteros 3 in my Spanish 4 class. Reporteros 3 is a little advanced. So there was a survey there about the concerns that people has for the planet and how much are you concerned about these issues, and my students had to answer those questions. And I almost start crying because they really were not showing any concern for things that we, educators usually show concern for. But what was the problem? This happened before I start integrating and talking about the sustainable development goals. It was like they were cold, and I give them this survey, but we never had talk about those things in my class. So of course they won't feel those connections unless they had experiences, personal experiences. I saw that most of them were very focused on their own world, their own issues. And we cannot pretend to help growing a country that has an open mind if we don't bring these things to our classrooms. You ask the students, do you guys talk about these things in social studies or in English class or whatever? No, no, they don't talk at this, right? Okay. All right. Kids eat this up. I think SDGs were an engagement igniter in class. Thank you, Suan Schrader, for sharing that. That's powerful. Okay, excellent, excellent. Here we go. Connecting languages, um, connecting language learning to real world issues through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. So connecting to real world issues. Okay, what can we do? So we can use the SDGs as a thematic unit. So for example, while teaching vocabulary about food and health, connect it to goal number 2, zero hunger. Have the time to have those discussions in class. It doesn't matter if the discussion is in English or the student's native language, because we're just reflecting, right? Um, and when we don't contextualize the topic, when we don't frame it the way we should be doing it so they think about the world, then we're missing a great opportunity. When studying communities, tied to goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. So let's go back, check the goal, and have that conversation. How can we have this type of communities? Okay. Incorporate authentic materials related to the SDGs, authentic materials. Like, for example, articles, videos, podcasts, interviews that talk about topics like climate change, education, or inequality in the target language. This is quite important because mm, we most of the times bring readings or videos or podcasts that are working with the language, and we focus so much on the language, that it has to be comprehensible, that we don't really check what they're saying. We don't really check the value of what they are reading or watching or listening to. So it is important to use authentic materials related to these goals. Okay. So it's also an exposure to authentic language, and that helps with global issues. Engage students in real world tasks. Okay, this is key. Projects, see, project based learning, where they propose solutions to problems. For example, write a letter to a local official about clean water issues. Okay, it doesn't matter if the letter is in the target language. Okay, create a poster campaign in Spanish promoting sustainable consumption. Most of the cities where we live here in the United States have communities with a large Hispanic Latino population. So we can go to those areas and, like, for example, to organizations that work with these groups and ask them if we can, place the posters in their offices or on their places or in a restaurant. Okay, make it real for them, and the students will feel like, man, I'm making a difference here. All right. Foster intercultural competence. So how different countries and cultures tackle the SDGs challenges. We're gonna compare how recycling is handled in Spain versus the United States. When I went to Spain, I was so surprised, because they have like three different containers everywhere. One yellow, one green, and I think there's one blue. And each one of them means something different. Okay, here in the United States, you want to recycle, you ask your garbage company to give you a recycling bin. You're supposed to separate, but people just throw things there, but at least that effort is made. How is this happening in a country like Colombia, in Latin America? Okay. Are people recycling in these countries? Maybe there's not the infrastructure that Spain has or the United States has, and people tends to just throw everything together. But these are real world issues. Design role play and simulated debates on the different SDG challenges. For example, debate in Spanish: what should we prioritize to fight climate change in our city? We had this debate in my AP language class, and I was just amazed with the ideas that the kids brought. But then again, it's the AP class. It's probably one of the few classes where we bring many of these goals of these topics. Okay, create personal connections. So the question that I asked to you: which SDG matters most to you? Reflect. Why? Why is this important to you? See, let's try to learn vocabulary and structures to explain that. Later on, I'm gonna show you how to do this with novice learners, because it's a little more complex because they don't have the language capability to debate or to reflect to the level of students who are in level 3, 4 AP. Use target language to act locally. So service learning projects. Again, there are many um, organizations that work with different communities. Let's take the kids out of the classroom. Let's take them there. Allow them to get to know these places, because otherwise they will never find out that exists in their city. We have a big school here that is called the Newcomer Academy. And every kid who is a refugee or just got here to the area and they don't speak English, they go to that school. It's a public school, Newcomer Academy. We have worked with them a couple of years, and if we never connected to them, the kids would not, never found that school existed here in Louisville. And it's so interesting because you see kids from around the world learning English. It's a powerful way to connect the students. Okay, so remember, integrating the SDGs makes language learning more meaningful because students are not just learning grammar and vocabulary. They are using the language to talk about real issues, take real positions, and propose real solutions. Exactly how language is meant to be used in the real world. We use language for these things, to talk about real issues, to take real positions, and to propose real solutions in every aspect or level of life. Activities connecting the SDGs to language learning by the American Council of Teaching Foreign Languages levels. So the first one, we go with novice. Just a little refresh. Students can communicate with memorized words and phrases, very simple sentences. So SDG, word poster. So we have pick one of the SDG and create a poster using 5 to 10 target vocabulary words, nouns, adjectives, verbs. They love working on these posters. Example, for life on land, they might use árbol, animal, bosque, proteger, agua, or whatever your language, the language that you are teaching. That's one idea. Also, they can come up with a slogan if you have worked with little bit with verbs. Okay. Another idea for novice level will be the yes, no, or this, that survey. So for this one, we present short statements related to the SDGs, and students answer with sí, no, or choose between two options. Okay, this or that. ¿Es importante cuidar el agua? Sí o no. ¿Prefieres energía solar o energía eólica? Sí, prefiero tal. So you have them working in groups, coming up with the questions related to the goals, and then you have them given the survey to classmates, and then they analyze the results of the survey, and then you can have a conversation and reflect on this in their own language. For intermediate students can create with language, combine phrases, and handle simple conversations or texts. For this one, simple problem solution paragraph. So students write a 5 to 8 sentence paragraph describing a problem related to an SDG and a basic solution. So it's more like individual work here. Hay mucha basura en mi comunidad. There's a lot of garbage in my community. Podemos reciclar más. We can recyclate more. También podemos usar menos plástico. We can also use less plastic. So it's like taking like the posters that they were thinking about when they were novice and putting this into paragraphs and starting to reflect, you know? And when they put this in words, ideas in paragraphs, that thing starts getting into their brain. And that's what we want. Also, for intermediate students, speed conversations, mini interviews. So we pair students to discuss one of the SDGs using a few guiding questions in a 3 to 4 minute chat. For example, ¿qué problema importante existe en tu comunidad? ¿Qué podemos hacer para ayudar? ¿Cuál es tu meta para el futuro? Notice that each one of these examples is involving the student and is helping them reflect on each one of these issues. We're not seeing the problems as an outside thing, okay? Because most of the times when we hear about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we see it as something that is external, and we need to help our students connect with them. For advanced students, now these students can narrate, describe, hypothesize, and discuss abstract topics in connected discourse. So we have a position paper or debate prep, okay? Writing a short argumentative text, taking a stance on an SDG issue. For example, la educación de calidad es esencial para reducir la pobreza. Sin educación, las personas no tienen acceso a empleos estables. This is a beautiful thesis for the argumentative essay on the AP Spanish language exam. That is supposed to be advanced, but we all know that they are intermediate, mid, intermediate, high. Anyway, I didn't say that, okay? So, simulated panel discussion for the advanced students. Create a panel, real or simulated, where students take on different roles, okay? So we go deeper and to each one of these issues presented by the Sustainable Development Goals, okay? We're going to focus on persuasive language, state opinions, agree, disagree politely, propose solutions. What do languages acquisition theories say, and how can we connect them with the SDGs? So let's start. Language acquisition shows students that they learn, that shows that the students learn best through authentic, meaningful communication. By connecting instruction to the SDGs, we offer real-world content that supports input, interaction, purposeful task, and deeper motivation. Each one of those words relates to one of the language acquisition theories, okay? So the first one, Dr. Krashen, master, comprehensible input. So these goals provide authentic, meaningful, and highly adaptable content that can be adjusted to students' proficiency levels. We just saw it. So we comply with the comprehensible input ideas that Dr. Krashen has shared with us. The hypothesis about the interaction hypothesis, discussing, debating, and collaborating on SDG-related issues creates natural, purposeful interaction. So we see that these theories work also in different levels, okay? The students work negotiating meaning on these issues. The other one is the task-based learning, Willis and Ellis. So we talk about this working on projects that are meaningful, campaigns that have a real impact, and tasks that have clear communicative purposes and require students to use language as a tool to achieve concrete goals. And the other theory is the integrative motivation by Gardner. And we are connecting language to global challenges, enhancing students' intrinsic motivation. You know that intrinsic motivation is the motivation that really counts. The extrinsic motivation is just temporarily, but this is what really make sense, okay? When students see how Spanish or any other language connects to them to global citizenship and real-world issues, they're more likely to engage deeply and feel personally invested in both the language and the cultures that speak it. Okay, so these are 4 theories of language acquisition that connect really well with what we're talking about here. By framing language instruction around the SDGs, teachers align language acquisition practices with motivating, authentic, and meaningful communication. Okay, we said this before. All right, so just to finish here, I'm going to share some resources you can use in language class related to the SDGs. I'm a Spanish teacher. The resources that I use are for Spanish class, but just look at the kind of resources that I'm sure you can find in French, in German, in Italian. Okay, so we have first, authentic news articles and reports. So short articles about topics like climate change, education, access, clean energy, social justice. Ideal for reading comprehension, vocabulary building, and discussion starters. For Spanish class, BBC Mundo and El País Planeta Futuro. If you Google BBC Mundo or El País Planeta Futuro, you need to Google El País Planeta Futuro just because it's a specific section of that newspaper, El País Planeta Futuro. Look at this. La precariedad, expolia, la adicción, el juego en Nigeria. Okay, these are like global things that they talk about here in this section. BBC Mundo also presents good articles. And I'm sure this is available in other languages, like for example, here on Tecnología. Bastrop, el pequeño pueblo rural de Texas convertido en el nuevo centro del imperio tecnológico de Elon Musk en Estados Unidos. Okay. El apagón. Just had this apagón yesterday in Spain. What happened? Okay. Muy bien. Authentic news, articles, and reports. Also, TED Talks and short videos. So TED Talks are important because the people who are invited to give these talks, they know what they're talking about. Okay, good for listening practice, note taking, summarizing. Sometimes they can speak a little fast, so I usually just put the speed of the language a little slower. So TED Talks in Espanol or any other language about climate change or gender equality. If you write TED Talk and one of the SDGs, you're going to find materials in your own language. Okay. Infographics and visual data. So infographics help the students understand things visually, obviously, and sometimes that it's more clear than trying us to explain the different data. So we have an example here: the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals infographics. You go to their website, you're going to see a lot of infographics that explain each one of these goals. They have a lot of visual materials that you can uh, look and research on, and you can find it in any language as well. Okay. And also, children's books and short stories. This is key. So there are books that touch on sustainable development goals related topics, great for lower proficiency levels. For example, Cuentos para salvar el planeta, Stories to save the planet. Ok, aquí está, Planeta Libros. So you can read a fragment here, but I also wanted to share this school project. Let's see, here. This was work by my dear friend, Profe Carmen Reyes, Unlocking Fluency, working with exploring the SDG 16 through children's literature. She worked with La Otra Orilla, a book by Maria Carrasco, and she explains here everything that she has done at different levels. It's a beautiful story based on that goal. And she also includes some artsy kind of like project here, projects for Novice Mid High. So I'm gonna put this one on the chat here so you can take a look. Okay, let's see. Todos. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Hopefully it works. Okay. All right, my friends. So I wanted to share you those resources. You can also find podcasts. This Radio Ambulante for Spanish is a really good podcast that, they talk about these issues. And United Nations resources in target language. They offer reports, summaries, videos. There's a lot. So you go to that same website, the United Nations, and you're going to find a lot of resources in different languages that you can bring to your classroom, to your instruction. My friends, teaching another language in 2025 means shaping global citizens capable of dialoguing, empathizing, and taking action to create a more just and sustainable world. That should be our main goal here. And we need to be realistic. There's some progress and there's some challenges with this goal. So, despite their importance, achieving the 17 goals by 2030 is unlikely. So the progress is limited. So only about 17% of the SDG targets are on track to be met by 2030. These are things that we can also discuss with our students. So they know that, this is not something that we think is going to happen by 2030. Regional disparities. Progress varies significantly across regions in different countries. Why? Well, because we have different situations. Impact of global crisis. So COVID-19 slowed down, the achievement of many of these goals, conflicts. I mean, we live in this world and many things happen, right? So it's important that we also realize that we're probably not going to be achieving all those 17 goals by 2030. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk about this, we don't incorporate them in our instruction, or we just, give up. We just keep working on these things. Okay. Some goals that are facing significant challenges: zero hunger, gender equality, and climate action. These are the ones that are facing significant challenges. Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. It is right now 7:55. My name is Diego Ojeda. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I hope that you found this presentation useful. Let's get connected through Instagram. That's my Instagram is r_Ojeda. That's my email and that's my blog. And blog, you can find articles in English and Spanish, all about teaching what we like to teach. Thank you so much, Central States. Thank you so much, CLED World Languages. Any questions, please direct them to marketing@cledworldlanguages.com.
But yeah, thank you so much, Diego, again for an amazing presentation. Now it's time for a Q&A. Please remember that if anyone has any additional questions, we still have a couple minutes, so you can use the Q&A or the chat. In the meantime, we only have one question that I believe the last part of the presentation helped to answer. But someone is asking, just in case, where can they find already made lessons, including the SDGs, without having to reinvent the wheel? So we could just connect it with the last part of the presentation if you have any additional suggestions or resources as for creating activities on the topic.
Right. Well, I work with Reporteros, which is a CLED World Languages program, and there are many mini projects and projects that are related to this. And I know that Reporteros is available in French and I don't know if in German, maybe. Sabrina, do you
Yes,
know?
yes. We're
Yeah,
just getting that done. So yeah, we're also having the German version, which I believe
right,
also includes the topic of which also includes this topic in particular.
right. And also the new CLED World Languages AP generation. It's just amazing how they work with all these issues and sustainable development goals. So those were the two things that I wanted to um, suggest.
Perfect. Since you talked about Reporteros, I'm just leaving a link. So if anyone wants to take a look at it, or Reporter Francophone, or Das Reporter Team, or any of the manuals that we have that talk about this topic, you can take a look at it and request it. Let me just double check that I haven't missed another question. I think we haven't. So maybe in the meantime, just in case someone comes up with a question, I can start doing a small closing up just in case.
Mhm.
So basically, I want to thank you all again for joining us, and thank you, Diego, for the presentation, plus, of
My
course,
pleasure.
Central States for this amazing collaboration. We really hope that this was helpful and interesting for all of you. And again, in case no one has any questions before you go, just some quick announcements. So first, please remember to fill the feedback form. We're going to put that on the chat right now. It is really helpful for us if you can. Yes, it is really helpful for us if you can help us out because this helps us to keep improving. Also, please remember to request a free sample if you want to check out more about Reporteros or any of the manuals that include the topic. And We also want to invite you to our webinar tomorrow, which is on reimagining German language learning for middle and high school. Again, this is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Even though this is very focused on the German language case, I think this could be useful for any of us. So please feel free to join us. I'm going to put the link for these and other webinars in case you want to take a look at them. We also have quite a couple interesting webinars in May. And since we don't seem to have any more questions, again, if you have any questions for Diego or for us, remember you can send us an email at marketing@cletwl.com. And because a lot of people are still asking, yes, you will receive a certificate of attendance if you requested it. I'm going to put the link again, and all of you will receive the slides with all the links that Diego put, all the resources and everything else, and the recording. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice rest of the day.